For more than a decade, Canada has been planning to join the United States F-35 fighter jet project and was preparing to implement a multi-billion-dollar deal. However, recent signals from Ottawa have raised the question of whether this giant project will be cancelled.
Very expensive fighter jets from the U.S. over trade concerns.
Talked about a lot, which is the Saab Gripen. That was the runner-up in the long procurement process to get these F-35s lined up.
There is a limit, full stop. There is a limit to matching these tariffs dollar for dollar, given the fact that our economy is...
Example is the F-35 fighter jet made by American aerospace giant Lockheed Martin.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has directed the Defense Ministry to review a $13.2 billion F-35 fighter jet deal.
Both rising concerns in Canadian domestic politics and trade defense tensions with the United States may be undermining the current F-35 contract. So what is the alternative? If Canada withdraws from the F-35, which fighter jet would Canada prefer, and which European model offers the best solutions? At the same time, European Union countries are ramping up defense production. In this context, could Canada work more closely with Europe? Let us now look at why Canada plans to replace the American F-35 with the Swedish Gripen. Canada's F-35 story actually dates back to the 2010s. As one of the partners in the United States-led Joint Strike Fighter project, the country was partially involved in the design and technology of the F-35 and wanted to take part in the production phase. For a long time, this decision was not questioned because the Royal Canadian Air Force wanted a fifth-generation aircraft with advanced sensors and weapons capabilities to replace its aging CF-18 Hornets. The F-35 was a rapidly expanding platform in North Atlantic Treaty Organization, so it was known that Canada was moving forward with the idea of let's stay compatible. However, the Trump administration's tariffs and trade frictions with Canada have led to a backlash between the two countries. Why do we get every deal from the United States? Second, criticism of the high cost and maintenance of the F-35 program resonates much more strongly than before. Another fact that has shaken public opinion in the country is the claim that the Canadian Air Force is only 40% ready. According to some reports, the current fleet has many problems, ranging from maintenance to productivity, from pilot shortages to a lack of spare parts. The best operational performance of fighter jets is only possible with a serious logistics and maintenance infrastructure. When you add a complex machine like the F-35 to the fleet, maintenance and operations become even more challenging. This is why the defense bureaucracy in Ottawa said, if we are going to buy a very expensive aircraft, who will guarantee its readiness? What happens if we have problems with the United States on this issue? Of course, it is an advantage to stay aligned with the United States, but Canada is questioning, is the United States a reliable partner? And where does Europe fit into this questioning? European Union countries are preparing for a giant leap in defense production to respond to the security crisis triggered by the war. Many countries from Germany to France, Italy to Spain have significantly increased their military budgets. In particular, the idea that Europe must build a self-sufficient defense industry has gained momentum in recent months. This could mean increasing the production capacity of aircraft such as the Eurofighter Typhoon, Dassault Rafale or Saab Gripen, and adding a new generation of digital avionics. The European Commission is also looking towards defense co-production funds. Some observers believe that if Canada gives up on the F-35, it can get a much more economical deal through bulk procurement from Europe. So, let's turn to the question, which jet could Canada choose instead of the F-35? Three major European offers stand out: Eurofighter Typhoon, Dassault Rafale, and Saab Gripen E or F. It is worth examining the advantages and disadvantages, maintenance costs, cost-effectiveness, operational power and effectiveness parameters of each. Eurofighter Typhoon. It is a joint production of the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy and Spain, and is in the fourth or 4.5 generation category. It does not have stealth features like the F-35, but it is very capable in air combat. It also performs well in air-ground operations with advanced versions. Typhoon's long-range, high-altitude capability could be an advantage for patrol flights in Canada's vast geography. Maintenance and logistics costs are slightly lower than the F-35, but still not cheap. There is a 4-nation consortium structure for spare parts procurement, which can sometimes create logistical difficulties. But Europe is developing updated versions of the aircraft. In terms of cost, The Typhoon's unit price is not as expensive as the F-35, but it is not cheap either. Still, the fact that it is not fifth generation may lead Canada to question, is it the complete solution for the future? Dassault Rafale. The French-made Rafale is a multi-role aircraft. It can be used on all fronts such as air superiority, ground attack, and naval operations. Although it does not have a stealth feature as advanced as the F-35, it has a modern design with a very low radar signature. Buyers such as India, Greece, and Egypt are very satisfied with Rafale. In terms of maintenance, if Dassault's support network can be well organized, it is possible to avoid problems in Canada. Rafale has engine power, aerodynamic capability, and Dassault's high standards. The cost dimension may be slightly more advantageous than the Typhoon, but it is still not clear to say cheaper than the F-35. It varies in country-based agreements. With its superior aerodynamics, twin-engine power, and advanced sensors, it could be suitable for long-range patrols in Canada's northern geography. However, the fact that it is not as widespread in North Atlantic Treaty Organization as the F-35 is a question mark in terms of integration. Nevertheless, there is some support in Ottawa for a new strategic partnership with the French defense industry. Saab Gripen E or F. The Swedish Gripen is a relatively light aircraft, but it is known for being cheap, easy to maintain, and adaptable to cold climates. It is said to be particularly successful in short runway operations or dispersed basing scenarios. Still, it is a small single-engine aircraft compared to the F-35 or Typhoon. Can the Gripen E or F meet Canadians' expectations for reliability and range in the north? We designed it for the harshest Scandinavian conditions, and we have the advantage of range and ease of maintenance, says Saab. In terms of cost, the Gripen has one of the lowest unit prices and operating costs among the fourth-generation aircraft. They also say it is easy in terms of training and logistics. Therefore, the argument goes, Canada can buy a large number of aircraft and not worry about maintenance costs. The downside is that some worry that the Gripen will be inadequate for missions that require heavy bombing or advanced stealth. In addition to these three options, could Canada turn to an American model but different from the F-35? For example, platforms such as the Boeing F-15X or the FA-18E or F-Super Hornet. However, these are also United States made. So, if Ottawa wants to get rid of United States pressure, it would not make much sense. Canada might say, if there are only commercial frictions, should we deal with Boeing? But Boeing is also a United States company. So, there are louder voices saying, we can loosen the United States ties and build a strategic partnership with Europe by shifting to European aircraft. At the same time, at a time when the European Union is increasing its defense production and many European countries are placing large orders due to the war in Eastern Europe, optimistic statements such as, if Canada is added to this order chain, unit costs will decrease and joint logistics support will be provided are being drawn. If we look at the balance of maintenance cost power effectiveness, the F-35 can be considered the most advanced technology with its fifth-generation stealth dimension. But its maintenance costs are among the highest. The Gripen, on the other hand, is famous for its low maintenance costs, but it lacks fifth-generation stealth capability. Typhoon and Rafale are both considered in the medium maintenance cost, high-performance segment. Considering that the Canadian Air Force currently maintains a 40% readiness rate, it is critical that new aircraft offer a high operational readiness rate with easy and fast maintenance. Many say Gripen is advantageous in this respect. In addition, the Gripen can work well in bases in the freezing northern parts of Canada, as it is durable in the Scandinavian climate. Typhoon and Rafale can also adapt to this climate, but their maintenance infrastructure can be more complex. From a political point of view, there is the question, would Canada be open to European integration? In recent years, the CETA agreement between Ottawa and Brussels has deepened. In addition, the trade frictions with the United States are pushing Ottawa to say, we will find an alternative to the United States and we will do business with Europe. If the F-35 is cancelled, it could mean that we are seriously breaking away from the United States. Of course, the question of joint projects, North American Aerospace Defense Command cooperation and logistics sharing with the United States is also uncertain. Nevertheless, if the possibility of cancellation is officially voiced, perhaps the United States will listen to Canada's demands regarding tariffs. A compromise will be reached and the project will be saved. This could also be a bargaining move. Canadian media polls on which airplane is the best show that the Gripen E is popular because it is cheap and practical. Typhoon supporters say NATO standard, very strong air superiority. Rafale supporters argue strategic autonomy, multi-role capability, Franco-European technology. Of course, the Canadian Air Force's command echelon is of the opinion that with the F-35, we have the most advanced technology for North Atlantic Treaty Organization and United States integrated operations. But if the political winds say there are tensions with the United States, let's pursue a strategy that shifts towards Europe. Then additional dimensions will enter into the commander's technical assessments. Presumably, if Ottawa conducts a fast tender, it will be able to make a new procurement choice within 1 or 2 years. On the other hand, Canadian defence aircraft manufacturers such as Bombardier are also on board. If we cancel the F-35 deal, our industrial cooperation with the United States could be jeopardized. It could backfire on us, they warn. Bombardier is a subcontractor on some Lockheed Martin projects or sells products on the United States market. Fighting with the United States would hurt us a lot, he warns the government. This view strengthens the thesis of those who say F-35 cancellation could cost Ottawa dearly. In short, economic and strategic actors within the country are pulling in various directions. On the other hand, if the European Union increases its defence production and Canada shakes hands with them, perhaps Bombardier could be integrated into European programs. For example, Canadian engineering capability could be utilised in new aircraft projects or drone projects in Europe. In this respect, the cancellation can be seen as a big risk but a big opportunity. Some experts believe that Canada could benefit by positioning itself as an European Union partner and not being so dependent on the United States. Realistically, however, geographical proximity and the leading role of the United States in global geopolitical trends make it difficult for Canada to break away completely. At a time when European defence industries are flooded with huge orders, the addition of a buyer like Canada could bring a smile to manufacturers' faces. But it also raises the question, as the market becomes more crowded, costs may fall, but could deliveries be delayed? The Typhoon Consortium and Rafale manufacturer Dassault are already busy fulfilling large orders from Greece, Croatia, India, and the United Arab Emirates. There are also orders from Brazil and Sweden in the Gripen E or F line. Therefore, even if Canada makes a mega deal of 60 to 80 aircraft, it is not known how long the delivery will take. In the meantime, the CF-18s will have to be maintained. As can be seen, the question will Canada cancel the F-35 deal brings with it dozens of subheadings. The first question is whether the federal government really intends to cancel or is it raising its hand in the bargain. According to leaked information, the Ministry of Defense has put Rafale, Gripen or Typhoon options on the table in case the F-35 is cancelled. Cost impact analyses have already been conducted. If the cancellation takes place, it is stated that the Canadian Air Force will have to deal with the selection and agreement of new aircraft for at least 2 years. In this process, having 40% of the existing fleet ready is already a weakness. If Ottawa makes a hasty decision, the margin of error will be high. There are also many who say, let us act more calmly. We can find a diplomatic solution with the United States. Over the next 5 years, the European Commission is planning large funds for joint defence procurement. Countries such as Poland, Germany, and Italy can reduce unit costs by buying in bulk. If Canada joins this train, there are scenarios that ask, can it buy Typhoon or Rafale at a more affordable price? Some industry experts are of the opinion that approaching Europe and making large batch purchases could also give Canadian companies the role of subcontractors. In other words, there is a win-win potential. Still, the political risks are obvious. A blow to relations with the United States would mean a setback in critical defense cooperation, such as North American Aerospace Defense Command. Canadian Air Force commanders also have to plan how to update their capabilities if they opt for European aircraft. Switching to a different system from the F-35, which has a 5th-generation stealth capability, begs the question, will there be a disadvantage against Russian or Chinese stealth aircraft? Nevertheless, there are experts who say, if we are supported by drones in the future, this gap will close. There is also the argument that we can take part in NATO missions without being part of the United States F-35 network. These issues are hotly debated in Ottawa. There are conservatives who say Canada has been with the United States for centuries. Is it wise to burn bridges this time? In the final analysis, the answer to the question, which jet would Canada choose if it cancelled the F-35 deal, is not clear. But possible candidates are Gripen E or F, Eurofighter Typhoon, Dassault Rafale. On the axis of maintenance, cost, power, and effectiveness, the Gripen may stand out as cheap, suitable for cold climates, easy maintenance. Typhoon stands out with excellent air superiority, but relatively expensive maintenance. Rafale has the advantage of multi-role capability, good industrial partnership. Which one would boost the Canadian Air Force's strength, which is only 40% ready? Perhaps the Gripen, with its low maintenance costs and easy logistics. Perhaps the Rafale or Typhoon would be more attractive if more powerful air warfare is desired. Ottawa will compare these against technical specifications. Of course, politics will also come into play. There are different geopolitical dimensions, such as the strategic partnership with France, the United Kingdom-German Consortium, or Sweden. The Ottawa government statements in the coming days are eagerly awaited. Some say, we are very close to cancelling the F-35 because Canada is fed up with the trade tensions and the United States' behaviour. While others say, this is a bluff. The United States is negotiating with the United States, and in the end, the deal will go ahead. But the picture is clear. If the European Union increases its defence production and Canada seeks new options, the transatlantic defence market could undergo major changes. The F-35 is a critical export item for Lockheed Martin. Its loss would also reverberate in United States-Canada relations. If Canada sits down with European manufacturers and strikes a deal for 60 to 80 aircraft, it will be recorded as a historic change, of course. All this will become clear soon. What is your view? Should Canada really give up on the F-35? Or should it solve its problems with the United States and get a fifth-generation stealth force? Are candidates like Gripen, Typhoon, or Rafale good enough for Canada's northern climate and wide-area patrols? Would co-production and defense cooperation with Europe enhance Canada's strategic independence in the long run? Or is breaking away from the United States neighborhood a dangerous gamble? All these questions are before Ottawa. In the coming weeks, the government is expected to announce a concrete decision on the F-35 contract. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications, and like this content to keep up with new developments. Do not forget to let us know in the comments which aircraft is the best option for Canada. Goodbye for now.